Hi, everybody. DJ Yoakley with you here for another Coach's Corner. A little bit different this time. We're going to do a little track and field with Crestview head coach Greg Woolman. Greg, how are you, sir?
Good. Nice to be here.
It is good to be here, considering we can talk about sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, with COVID-19, the coronavirus out there, bad news coming down just a few moments ago from Governor DeWine. School not going to initiate till very least, at the earliest, I guess, May 1st. Talk about how this hits you close to home, especially from your track and field standpoint and trying to coach.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are fortunate that we have only one senior, so losing that season isn't as bad. But I mean, for the senior that we had, he had opportunities this year probably to go to state. I mean, he was on a relay team. More than likely, that could have made it that far. And he had a great end of the year last year, and we were looking forward to it this year. And obviously, this news coming down isn't the best, but it's understandable. I mean, kind of understand why it's happening and everything. So
for you as a coach, for those who don't realize how tough it is to be a track and field coach, you literally have to be everywhere at once during an event, during a meet.
Yeah.
So this kind of coronavirus thing doesn't throw you off your game because you're literally used to being everywhere at once. Talk to me about any conversations you've had with your student athletes, what their feeling is and what their takeaways are.
Obviously, they're disappointed. We started. We were probably 3 weeks into training. Obviously, when the news came down, and we were looking. This, knock on wood, was looking like it would have been a better year than last. And last year we had a great season, but we brought back some key kids. Obviously, you miss kids like a Dominic Perry, a Dylan Huff, who were standouts in football and they excelled in track. You miss those kids, but we were very well-rounded. We had good distance kids, we had good sprinters, we had good field athletes. So we were looking like we were going to be really, really good. And in fact, that Thursday when that all happened, we were doing testing just to kind of see where everyone was at. And those were our best numbers that we had in years as far as where kids were at. So, we had all that training and everything. It was disappointing. But kids have been trying to get a hold of me, looking for workouts, acting if the season was still going to go on. And you like that for especially like a small school like ours where track isn't necessarily the focus. And we understand that. We're successful at a lot of other sports at Crestview, and we understand that we're not the focal point. But to have kids that are just that committed, that makes you feel good as a coach that they want to continue doing it. So.
Coming off of last year's unbelievable season, bringing home state championships seemingly left and right. Is this something where, you guys were using that momentum to build towards this year and beyond? What is that? How does that change your game plan, given that, worst case scenario, you don't have a season at all this year?
Just to keep in contact. I think that's one thing that our coaching staff does a really good job at is we keep close contact with our kids. In high school, you don't, as coaches, especially small schools, you don't have the luxury of only coaching one sport. I coached basketball. I coached football for a number of years. Pretty much all our coaches coach other sports. And it helps because you get that contact with the kids in the other sports and you can show that you care about them in other sports. And which we do. I got a kid this year, Jack Yerke. This first year he was going to come out and do track, and he came out, and I've been in his ear for 3 years about doing it. And he's like wishy-washy about it, but he came out and he fell in love with it. And I think it was because he had coaches that trusted him, that were very close in contact with him. So we just have to continue that contact throughout the rest of this summer and going into next year with football season, soccer season, and all those other sports, just to keep kids, to let them know that we're still here and we still care about them and that we want them to, continue pursuing the sport.
So let's move everything coronavirus to the backside. Let's talk about this as if it were a preview show. What were the strengths of your team moving into the 2020 season?
Sprints. Our sprints were going to be phenomenal this year. We had a kid, Ethan Powell, who I mean, more than likely would have been his third straight year going to state, and he's only a junior. He's part of that 4x2 team that had the state record. Brandon Yansons is another kid who, same boat. A kid that a lot of people, he would have, made a huge name for himself this year that a lot of people didn't kind of realize last year was William Hardenbrook. He was a kid, stand out in football, just kind of starting to get his feet wet last year towards the end of the year, missed going to state in 2 events by, inches and seconds. It was close. He would have stood out this year and been part of that 4x2 team and high jump and all those things. And I had other kids. I had 2 kids that played soccer, the Crane twins. There's stud soccer players coming out and playing. So our sprints would have been great. Distance was going to look good this year too. Having a bunch of kids that were really working hard, and it just stinks. But at the same time, we were fortunate enough to only really, if this all happens, that we're only going to lose that one senior, Cody Schaeffer, to graduation. But it's tough. It is, because we were looking to prove ourselves and prove that last year wasn't a fluke. So.
Talk about Cody for a minute, what he means to your program, and obviously what this season means to him.
Yeah, Dakota, he's been around all 4 years. This would have been his 4th year in track. Last year, he made strides like right at the middle of the season, started getting warm out, and he just started getting better and better and better. Missed going to regionals in the 800 by a couple seconds. They take the top 4, and he finished 5th. So he was close. And anyone that knows track around this area, if you can make it out of districts in our area, you have a good shot at going to state. So we were real confident and high on him. Did a couple indoor meets this year, and he was looking good. It just stinks to lose him, because you only get so many leaders, and he was definitely one of them. And to lose him, and then to not have him fulfill that senior year, it kind of stinks, because he poured a lot of time into this season, and his goal was to get in the record on the record board this year. And it's probably not going to happen, but it just stinks, because that's our goal every year, and every meet is to break a record. That's what we do. So
you're a leader by example. You talk about his leadership. What about his leadership stands out to you? Is he an LBE like you personally, Greg? Is he a rah guy like we've seen before? Guys like Tristan Reynolds coming out of Crestview. What does Dakota bring to the table that really helps your team?
He's one of those. He's not gonna. He is a lead by example type kid, but he's not gonna go out there and show you up. He's not gonna ride you or get on you and tell you gotta do this or that. He's literally just gonna do his job. He's going to do it well. He's not going to complain, and he's just going to go on to the next thing. And he works hard. He's a kid that's involved in a lot of things, and it just stinks, because, we only had 18 kids, and he was our only senior. You look to him to kind of give you that leadership moving forward. So
you look at this whole situation, and it feels a lot like fantasy football in some regards. Talk to me about kind of where you felt about where your cards were moving into the season. Did you feel like you already said this is going to be a year that you thought would be better than last? How good could this year have been?
I think we could have had. Last year we had 3 state championships. We had a 4x2 that won state. They set the state record. Yeah. We had a 4x1, and we had our thrower, Dominic. And then Dylan finished in both the 200 and the long jump. This year, realistically, talking to the coaches and stuff, we thought we could get back in at least the 4x1 and 4x2, and then possibly send some individual kids, Hardenbrook in the hurdles and the high jump, and make a run at it. Our 4x8 team too, they had some work to do a little bit, but track's all about finding kids and putting them in the right spots. A kid like Dylan Huff, we didn't realize he was a long jumper until his junior year, towards the end of the season, now he jumps at YSU. So it's just a hard thing to do with track. But realistically, I mean, we thought we could at least send about 4 or 5 events down the state. So,
Greg, what do you feel is the best part of coaching at a small school and kind of, blending into the foreground, so to speak?
I think the best part is I teach at the school too. So I literally see these kids when they're in 5th grade, and I watch them grow up to young men and watch them, watch their lives just unfold and their interests and what they do. Last year was real special to me because that senior class that graduated with Dominic and Dylan and Jace, those kids were my first class that I taught. So it was kind of cool because then I coached them in middle school football and middle school basketball, and then track season. I think I coached Dominic Perry in one sport every year from 6th grade all the way till he graduated. And it was cool just to watch that maturity and kids grow up and just kind of see their interests and what they want to do. That's the nice part about coaching at a small school, because you can kind of pick and choose what you want to coach, because I mean, they need them, and if you're good at it, they'll take you. So it's kind of nice to see, and those relationships with the kids and families, they're amazing to make.
And then finally, who was your coaching role model growing up, and did you emulate him or her in any way?
Oh man, I'd probably say my dad. He was my coach up until my 6th grade, 7th grade year, and I just liked how he was calm when he coached. And that's anyone that coaches or in athletics, that's hard. It's hard to maintain coach. And sometimes I catch myself getting angry and fret up about stuff, and I just try to remember that, and I always just try to think like this is just one moment in many moments, and just try to let things go. And it works sometimes it gets the best of me, but that was one thing that I really admired about my dad and even other coaches I had. I had Jeff Brink as a coach, and Will Klusnick, and Doug Phillips was my football coach for a couple of years, and
wow,
all those guys had those type of attributes. It was cool.
That's awesome. Greg Woolman, the head boys varsity coach for track and field. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe. Keep that kid safe and your wife safe as well, man.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for joining me. Take care.
You too.